try to think of a new way to introduce myself instead of saying good afternoon. Because I think I say that every single time, don't I? Pretty much, good afternoon. Why change something that works? Hi guys. As you can see, we're here in sunny Costa Rica once again. I was in Canada last week, if you tuned in. We've been running, not gonna lie. Truth be told, Kenneth and I have been running like maniacs for the last half an hour. Kenneth, say hi. Hi. Kenneth's hand saying what up. We are live here at Fruits, Rythmia, Costa Rica, Guanacaste. We're using a technological device called an iPad currently, and the microphone is a little bit different than what I normally use, so if you guys can give me a heads up right now in the comments if the audio is okay. Kenneth is going to do his best to stay close to me. I think that the microphone's a little bit less sensitive than what I was using in the past. It is with kombucha gusto.
Kombucha gusto.
Kombucha gusto.
Very good.
It was ridiculous. It's with much pleasure that we bring this Facebook Live to you today on the topic of kombucha. That's my play on words. It's all I've got. We're talking about kombucha in Spanish. When we say you're welcome, instead of saying de nada here in Costa Rica, we say con mucho gusto, which means like with much pleasure. So this is a ridiculous play on words. And it was actually inspired by, I realize this now, by a brand of kombucha here in Costa Rica that spells it this way, kombucha gusto. So I fear that I may have copied them. Hopefully it's not too trademarked. I spelled mine with a C though, so I guess it's different. But we are talking about kombucha tea for various reasons. Main reason is I had a couple of people asking me about it in the comments in the past, and also because I love kombucha tea and I drink it every single day, and it's good for us and it's delicious. And I was just in Canada last week where I was able to pick up a kombucha starter kit so that we could do this wonderful Facebook Live this afternoon. So I'm going to call the video up over here on my laptop to see what's going on. I was suffering with a bit of a head cold for the last week, as I think I shared when I was doing my Facebook Live last week. It has cleared up quite a bit. Hey, I just remembered when I saw myself that I've got this little new shirt on that's got watermelons on it. I was joking with my property manager at my condo this morning. She's like, are you going to work? I'm like, yeah, I don't wear a chef coat, but I've just decided I'm going to start wearing t-shirts with food on them all the time. Because yesterday, for example, I was sitting at one of the tables here, and I just started chit-chatting with some guests, and they're like, so how long are you here for? Did you just arrive? I'm like, oh, I'm not a guest. I work here. I'm the chef, but no one knows because I wear street clothes all the time. So I'm just going to start wearing clothes with food on them. And this is my new watermelon shirt that I picked up in Toronto. You guys really don't care about all of these details of my life, but I need to talk while I'm calling out the video. And there we go. Turn on the mute. It kind of looks like a muscle shirt on the video. I'm looking like a bit... Does it look like a muscle shirt to you guys? Do I look a little bit... Yeah, I'm getting thumbs up from the boys over at the table. Audio is fine, says Melita. Melanie's giving a thumbs up. George Bell saying hi from Ontario. Hey, George Bell, nice to see you online. Randy Nichols just joined, and Katie. Maricela, oh beautiful, Pura Vida. Okay, great. So if you're watching and you want to, I would love to hear where you're watching from. You can type that in the comments, it would be great. Variety, that doesn't count for you. You can't just type and say that you're watching it from the table right next door. We've got some guests watching from behind the scenes here that watch live normally on the internet, so she's able to watch here live in person today. What do you think about my preamble that I'm just talking about nothing for a long time? All right, she's cool with it. I'm mostly just waiting for people to hop on board because I don't want to get right. Exactly, so we gotta wait. I'm gonna have a sip. This is actually a big old bottle of kombucha that I bought day before yesterday, and I've gone through this whole thing. Looks like a bottle of rum. I know. It's definitely not rum. It is kombucha, and you can buy it. There's a great little organic shop in town here. It's the same organic shop that we order a lot of our organic produce and nuts and seeds from here at Rythmia. They have now kombucha on tap there, which is like mind-blowing and exciting for me. So I've been, my new thing is filling up one of these guys every few days. Because, I will tell you, because I am now 10 months, almost, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July. 9.5-ish months since I've had my last drink of alcohol. I really enjoyed having kombucha in the evening. So if I want to have a nice fancy feeling with my dinner, I'll pour myself a glass of kombucha into a really nice fine stemmed wine glass. And I've taken to, you know, at the end of the day when I want to just unwind, I crack open my kombucha. And that's like the same satisfying feeling of opening up a wine bottle. That was a lot of my drinking problem was habitual, and that was like a big thing for me was being able to open up a bottle of wine at the end of the day, and that like signified my day is done. Time to sit back, kick my feet up, have a glass or 7 of wine. But now it's like I do the same and I just have 1 or 2 glasses of kombucha with some dark chocolate, and then I watch Netflix and chill. Isn't that like pure Vita living right there? Okay, so let's get down to the nitty gritty. Aloha from California. Jackie's watching from Florida. I've got Rythmia watching from North Carolina. I wonder who from the Rythmia team is watching from North Carolina. Is that Claudia? Denise is watching from Maine. Hello, hello. Bridie's saying finally watching you live from 5 meters away. Amazing. Bridie's visiting us from Australia. Sheila Shore is watching. Randy's saying, can you get a buzz from kombucha? Well, I drank a lot of kombucha today, and I'm buzzed, but I'm just buzzed on life. And I've had like 3 coffees. Kombucha can be a stimulant, yes. So we're going to get into a little bit more about the details. As always, I've made myself notes so I can stay on track, which clearly I have not done yet through this whole Facebook Live. When I was in Toronto this week, I drank a lot of my favorite brand of kombucha there, and it's called Tonica, and I picked up their starter kit, which we're going to talk about in a bit. And I pulled some of the information from their website just to be very accurate in what they share about it, because this is a brand of kombucha it's been around for over 10 years in Toronto. She was like Zoe, I think that's the name of her name, that the creator. She's been doing this long before kombucha became a fad in North America, so it's been well over a decade. So they do this great thing on their website about how kombucha is fermenting. It's fermenting of black tea. You can do it with green tea and white tea, but it's recommended to do black tea is the best, because a lot of people don't realize this, that what we're doing is we're taking tea and we're fermenting it using a culture that I was just showing some of my staff, and they were quite grossed out by it. And it is a culture called a SCOBY, a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. I should have brought rubber gloves out, and I didn't. That's okay, I've got a bowl. So, SCOBY, symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour off this liquid here. This is the mother SCOBY. I'm going to put it in another bowl so you get a better look here. So it's a big chunk of bacteria and yeast, the SCOBY, the mother. So what we're doing is we're going to be adding this into brewed tea with sugar, and this little guy, this is a living culture, and she is going to live off of the sugar that we're adding into the tea as well as the caffeine, and that's the point that I was just trying to get across. A lot of people don't realize that the kombucha doesn't just live off of the sugar, but it also needs the caffeine in order to form like its best cultured brew. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be brewing tea using the SCOBY. The SCOBY is going to be metabolizing the sugar and the caffeine to create this fermented tea product that is quite delicious, often effervescent, great probiotic, good for gut health. She lists a few other things. They say it's a digestive aid from the living, it's probiotic, as I mentioned. It can be cleansing for the liver. It increases energy because it's an oxygenated drink. And it can help balance pH in the body because it is quite alkalizing. So those are some great benefits of kombucha. It's a bit of a fad right now. You'll see it everywhere. Everyone and their uncle is doing small batch brews, tons of different flavors out there, and I think it's an amazing, amazing thing. Expecting mothers should take note that there is lactic acid present in kombucha, so if you are pregnant and your doctor is telling you to stay away from lactic acid, kombucha is probably not the best beverage for you while you're with child. That's just my little health and wellness note for you all. So we're going to get to it. We're going to show you how this is done. So what I've gone ahead and done ahead of time is got all the ingredients ready. So here we've got 3.5 liters of water, and I've got it to a rapid boil, as you can see. Can we see the water? Perfect. Sorry, I don't know how this new iPad frames things, so I can't tell if you're actually focusing on what we're talking about, or if you're just looking at my mug. So we've got 3.5 liters of water that have got to a boil, so I'm just going to turn that down. And I'm going to add in 1 cup of cane sugar. Use sugar, guys. Like, I know I've gone on rampages and rants about sugars and sweeteners and substituting and la 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 la. But for this recipe, you want like real plain old sugar. I've tried it with like agave and maple syrup and all of these other things, but this is the best food. So I'm going to put in about a cup, and this is just raw cane sugar that I use here in Costa Rica. It works the best. If you're doing this for the first time at home, you want to just use the basic ingredients. So that would be black tea and real cane sugar. Don't mess around with substituting until you've had some chance to experiment. So 3.5 liters of water with 1 cup of sugar, and I'm just stirring that to dissolve the sugar. And I've got the heat turned off here, and I'm gonna add my tea bags. So Kenneth went and opened up 5 dark tea bags. So this is just whatever, if you want to use organic loose leaf, you can do that as well. The recipe that I'm gonna post for you guys is gonna give you a weight in grams for black tea, but I'm gonna use just 5 tea bags. Any old black tea will do. Any old, what? I was just about to sing a song from a musical. Something, any old something will do. I think it was Les Mis or something, there was a song. I don't know. Leone's watching. Sheila's watching from Missouri. William's watching. Oh, William's, he is watching and saying that he will see us in October. Super cool. Mike is saying hello. Brittany's saying I have only on it. Oh, she must be talking about feeling the buzz. Brittany says she's had a buzz on an empty stomach, but she's super sensitive in general. And there is a very, very minute, small alcohol content because of the fermentation process, but not enough to get in a tizzy about. I mean, at least I'm not getting in a tizzy about it. It's not like I'm getting drunk on kombucha. I think you'd have to drink gallons upon gallons in one sitting to get any sort of real alcoholic buzz from it. Leonie saying, hi, beautiful Meg. I miss you, sending you love. I miss you too. But it's so cool that we can connect here on the World Wide Web. Okay, so I've got 5 tea bags in here with 1 cup of cane sugar and 3.5 liters of water. That's it. That's all we do in this phase, and I'm going to be like doing the magic of TV. I'm going to take this off. La, la, la. We've been steeping that for 20 minutes. Dun, 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 dun. We've got steeped tea. That has been cooling. So we've had this sitting here for a bit in the Costa Rican air, so it hasn't really cooled down much, let's be honest. We want this like no more than like 37 degrees. So what I might actually do is maybe Hugo can help me and just grab, will you ask the kitchen to bring me a mug of ice cubes? Is this just water?
Sure.
This is your water.
Oh, never mind.
No. This is coconut water.
Oh, will you just have them bring one of these of ice for me?
Just
ice.
Okay.
So I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to toss a bit of ice in here just to help cool it down. Because we don't want this tea super, super scalding hot, because our mother won't like that. That's like dumping our mother into a scalding hot bathtub. Who would like that? So we're going to just bring this temperature down a little bit by adding in a couple of ice cubes. Ideally, we'd want to let this just sit at room temperature for anywhere like up to an hour even, just to let it cool down enough that we're not going to shock the mother. Shock the mother. Shock the monkey? That's the song. I'm having a really hard time identifying these songs that are coming into my head today. Is it Shock the Monkey? No. Dun, 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 dun. There's a song from the 90s. Anyone? Bueller? You guys are usually really good for throwing it out there when I'm making stuff up. It is Claudia saying, do you have to use distilled water? Ideally, use the best water you can get. But as with all things, thank you, darling.
You're welcome.
Tap water, if that's all you have, use it. I mean, you're going to be boiling it anyway, so I'm not a huge stickler. I've used well water from on my farm. I've used tap water when I was in college. I've used all types of water, and it's worked out well. But if you can get like really good distilled or fresh spring water or whatever you want to do it. Don't be too crazy. And if it fails, you just try again. That's the beauty. I'm going to have another drink of my kombucha. And just like that, it's done. Okay, so I'm going to add these ice cubes in. So this is probably going to be about a cup's worth of added water, which is fine. That's just going to water it down a little bit. But I brewed this tea pretty strong. It's like molasses dark. It's super potent. Ideally, you want to just let your 5 tea bags steep for about 20 minutes. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pour that into a big old jar, glass. So I'm going to pour this into my glass jar here. So this is 3.5 liters of brewed tea with 1 cup of sugar. Whoop! Story of my life. Making a mess. Why are you laughing at me, Bridie? My laugh makes you laugh. I was just talking with my friend last night who snorts. He snorts when he laughs, and I snort when I laugh. So then when we get laughing and snorting, then we start laughing harder and snorting harder at each other. It's just, it's hilarious. So we have this big old snort fest. Okay, so I'm feeling this. This feels like a good temperature. It's so funny. So the video that I have on my laptop is slightly delayed. So right now I can look over and see me pouring and spilling and making a mess. See my ridiculousness, and I can see me calling you out. I'm like, Okay. Dun, 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 dun. Our tea is brewed, and now all we need to do is add our mother into there. So this is our mother SCOBY, delicious. Dump that in. A bada boom, bada bing. Now we just cover it up. Don't put your lid on this, like don't screw a lid on here. We want to let there to be air circulation, and it can bubble up a little bit and get a little bit gassy, so we don't want to seal it in tight. So what I usually do is put a piece of cheesecloth or a clean tea towel over top and just secure it with a band. Now, North America, when I was making my own kombucha in Toronto, I would put this whole jar on top of my refrigerator. And that's where I brewed my tea. Because my refrigerator was in the corner of my kitchen, it was hidden from direct sunlight. And I would cover most of the whole jar with a tea towel, so it was not we don't want direct light, we don't want it super cold, we don't want it super hot. So when I was living in Toronto, right on top of the refrigerator, it was just warm enough. Like around 20 degrees is Celsius is kind of ideal for the brew, and then you would take about 7 days to let the culture. Here in Costa Rica, because it's stinking hot, I'm probably going to brew it in my office, because my office is air conditioned during the day and we have the air conditioning off at night, so it'll be a nice balance. But all you need to do now is set this aside for 7 days and let the mother do her thing. So what she's going to do is she's going to hang out in this brew, and she's going to just feed off of the caffeine and feed off the sugar and slowly create a probiotic. If you are familiar with raw apple cider vinegar, you know that there's always like a mother culture, which is almost like a powdery substitute residue that forms at the bottom. You're going to start to see something like that forming with the tea. And the idea is the mother's going to eat all of that sugar. So at the end of the fermentation, it's going to be virtually a very, very sugar-free, low-sugar beverage, because she will have eaten all of that sugar up in the culturing process. And you should end up with a not sweet tea. So I say about 7 days is typical for this particular recipe. But what you would do after 7 days is you could test it. You could pour a little bit into a glass and just test it and see if it's nice and alkaline tasting, almost acidic. If you do it too long, what you're going to end up with something that tastes like vinegar, which is not ideal. If you do it less than 7 days or a shorter amount of time, you might end up with something sweeter, but maybe that's what you like. So it's really up to personal taste, but I usually do 7 days. I like it a very, not too sweet, not too sour. And I have brewed them far too long, like forgot about it, because I used to sometimes put it underneath my kitchen counter, and then I'd forget, and then like 2 weeks later I'd be like, oh my god, I have kombucha, and I taste it, and it would taste like vinegar. What I have read is possible is you could then dissolve some more sugar and water and add it and let it re-ferment for a few days, and that might remedy it, but I've never done it. So you can try it, let me know how it goes, but I've dumped my kombucha that I've made into vinegar. My girlfriend, what she does is she takes if she's done that in the past, she's stored it and just used it as kombucha vinegar, like and mixed it into salad dressings and things. Or you could use it in the recipe that we're gonna do later on to make vegan cheese. So that's it, that's the first step of the process, and after this you're gonna have a delicious fermented tea product that's gonna be great for the belly, but it's most likely not going to be that bubbly, fizzy kombucha that everyone knows and loves and what we buy from the grocery store. So we're going to talk about that process next. So I'm just going to set that up here. Okay, so that makes a good amount of tea, by the way. Obviously, 3.5 liters. And you're not going to be drinking massive jugs of it at a time, especially, by the way, if you've never drank kombucha, I do not recommend downing a bunch at once. Remember the first time I bought kombucha to try years ago, probably like 7 years ago. And I drank like a whole bottle like this, and I was running to the bathroom for hours. Because it is super probiotic, and if you already have a really active digestive system, she can go through you. So just start it with baby steps. Maybe start with a half a cup at a time. You're still going to get great health benefits from the probiotic. It's still going to be great in alkalizing. You're still going to get the great delicious taste. You could always cut it with especially some of the brands are quite sugary, so quite often what I'll do is I'll pour like a half of a glass of the actual kombucha and then put in just some sparkling water with it, or club soda or something like that, and that helps cut the sweetness, but still keeps it bubbly. But if you want to actually make your own really fizzy version, there's a couple of options for doing that, and you can also add in a flavor base. So I did recommend using black tea and cane sugar, kind of a very basic flavor notes with that. So what you would want to do if you want to have any sort of fruit flavor and things like that is to do a second fermentation, which is kind of a nerdy thing to say. Like, we're going to do a second fermentation. And that's exactly what we're going to do. And I'm just going to show you real quick the steps. And these are just a few of my favorite brands. Literally, I just pulled them out of my fridge at home because I have my entire second shelf of my fridge is like, it looks like a variety store. It's every type of kombucha available in Tamarindo, Costa Rica in my refrigerator. But I'm going to talk about the second fermentation. And what second fermentation is after that 7-day or so fermentation period, you got your tea to the point you want to go. This is a kombucha, a plain kombucha here that I've just poured in here for example's sake. And I'm just going to show you real quick. So I've got 2 bottles here. Pretend I'm just going to do a second fermentation for 2 bottles of kombucha. That's what's going on here. So I've gone and washed these out really, really well with hot water and rinsed them with some apple cider vinegar as well, just to kill off any potential bacteria. And there are 2 different things. If you Google kombucha making at home and second fermentation, you're going to get a lot of people telling you different things. A lot of people say to add in like a fresh fruit and or herb infusion, which is great, and I've done that in the past. But it's been the only time that I've ever had an issue with bacteria and mold growth is when I use fresh fruit. So there's 2 ways you can go about doing that. We could like macerate, like if I want to do like strawberry raspberry tea, for example, you could take a couple of raspberries that I've washed ahead of time, a handful of red berries, macerate the snot out of them. Macerate, that's the word, right, for making cocktails? This is a word that my mom and I remember when I was visiting her a couple years ago, we were making cocktails, and neither of us for like hours could remember the word macerate. And I think it was like in the middle of the night, one of us texted the other one, was like, macerate! Macerate's the word. So you can macerate, and then add your macerated fruit to your jar, your second fermentation jar. I'm not going to go too crazy with it. Do we have spoons? Did we bring spoons? We didn't bring spoons. But I did bring one of these. By we, I mean Kenneth did. I'm just going to put a little bit of berry in here. Potentially not. La la la. I'd want to macerate this a little bit more if I was doing this legit. Then, for good measure, we could drop in a mint leaf or 2. And then we just want to top up, oh wait, about a teaspoon, less than a teaspoon of sugar. And this is what's going to help this already fermented kombucha continue in the fermentation process. And this is what's going to help feed the kombucha to give us the bubbles. The combination of the fructose from the fruit and this extra little added sugar is going to be what gives us the bubbles. So when we fill the jar, we're not going to fill all the way. We're going to fill it to leave room for bubble creation. So I'm going to fill it up to there, because that's all I have. But this is probably about right. And then for the second fermentation, how pretty is that? You do want to put your lid on. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun. Sorry, I'm just in love with the way that this looks, with all the macerated fruits and mint leaf on top. And then what we would do is we would go ahead and set these aside, maybe in the same place that we had the big fermentation happening. But we're only going to let this go for 3 days. And after the first day, we have to burp it. Yes, we do. So after 1 day, the sugar and everything is going to start to really ferment. So all we need to do is after 1 day, so if I do this at 6 p.m. on Monday, by 6 p.m. Tuesday, I just want to go and I want to open up my jar. And it's going to probably go psst, psst, like you're going to get that little gas release. And that's great. We just want to let go of the extra gas from it. Screw the lid back on, wait for 2 more days, and then you're going to have this amazing effervescent fizzy. What's a good example here? I think this brand is quite fizzy, so hold on, stand back. Oh, I let you down. There was 0 fizz. See if there's anyone. Maybe this one. Whoop, there we go. See the bubbles? And you can see all the bubbles rising up around those raspberries. Now I'm going to have to drink this today. Ooh-hoo. So this is the result of a second fermentation. So that is one technique. As I mentioned, using the fresh fruit, as I've had problems with that in the past. So the other recommendation I would say is just get like a nice infused tea. So this I have a mango strawberry infused tea, and all I would do is fill up my jar, put in my with the first brew tea, add 1 teaspoon of sugar, and then just pop in a flavored tea bag, like caffeine free. This is where you can use any sort of herbal caffeine free tea you want to use. Like these fruit infusions are really, really nice, and then you're not dealing with the fresh fruit and the potential bacteria growth that goes along with it. So that is my recommendation for flavoring your tea, is using a flavored tea bag, especially when you're doing this for the first time. Make sense? Make sense? Perfect. So that's how you make tea. So 3 days. After 1 day, burp it. 2 days later, taste it. It's probably going to be great. And at that point, you store it in the refrigerator. All right? One thing I failed to mention is that I'm thirsty. I'm going to drink some coconut water. I have the attention span of a gnat. Let's see what's going on over here. Someone Alita's saying epic. Deborah's watching from Colorado. Christine's watching from St. Louis, Missouri. She's saying great tip. I love making it with coffee. Oh, that sounds interesting. St. Louis, Missouri is also in the house with Sue. Deborah's giving a thumbs up. Sean's joined us. Christine's joined us. Any old kind of music, Claudia. Thank you. Mirka's watching from Finland. Sean's laughing at me. Story of my life. Claudia's saying, does the second fermentation need to be in a dark place? I would say yes, just to be safe, put it in the exact same closet you do the first one. Karen's watching from Asheville. What was I going to say? Oh, yes. So, I was explaining this to my staff ahead of time, and I forgot to mention it. So, when we do this first brewing step, the 7-day brew, we've got that mother SCOBY, the symbiotic culture of bacteria yeast, is in that 3.5 liters of tea fermenting. After those 7 days, typically what happens is that mother culture births a baby. So that weird looking mushroom thing will end up floating probably on the top of your tea. And as it's sitting there feeding off the caffeine and sugar, it's actually going to start to create a little baby attached to it. So when you're done brewing, you typically will end up with two, like a big mama SCOBY and a baby SCOBY. Now you've got 2 SCOBYs, so you can double up and make 2 batches of tea. Or you can give off a SCOBY to a friend, which is really, really what is a great, it's the gift that keeps on giving, really. And I used to joke when I was living in Toronto, I was making kombucha at home, that I was a SCOBY dealer, because they would get to the point where I'd have like 5 SCOBY, little jars of SCOBYs in my fridge. That people would be like, hey, you got a SCOBY? I'd be like, yeah, meet me in Rosedale. You know, I was like dealing SCOBY. So that's the really great thing, is your mother SCOBY will usually, not always, sometimes it depends on the brew and the circumstance and the several variables. Sometimes you won't get much of a baby SCOBY out of the deal, but typically she will birth another SCOBY. This being said as well, I did go and buy this little jar of, like, I bought this little plastic jar is what had my mother in it, as well as, oh my God, what I didn't mention. It also had about a cup of already brewed kombucha, which is an ingredient in the first brew that I failed to mention. I didn't put it in. Remember when we separated the mother SCOBY from the liquid? This liquid also needs to go into the brew. Wah! See that elastic band just flew? So, super key ingredient, actually, to help get this going. You need your 3.5 liters of water with your 1 cup of sugar dissolved. You need your 5 dark black tea bags. You need your mother SCOBY, and you also need at least a half a cup to about a cup of already brewed kombucha from like your last batch. So what I would recommend when we harvest this batch of kombucha, take your mother SCOBY, take your baby SCOBY, put them into 2 separate glass jars, and put in a half a cup of the fresh brewed kombucha in with each of them, so then you have your supplies ready for 2 more batches. Okay? Make sense? Got it? Good. Because I forgot to mention that. Kind of important. So I'm going to put that back on top. My elastic band flew across the room, so I'm going to have to get a new elastic band. What was my point with all of that when I remembered? I was talking about the babies. Oh, okay. So I was saying that I did go and out of my way to buy that kombucha kit, but you can make your own SCOBY at home. How? Well, all of your kombuchas typically will, like I mentioned, just like apple cider vinegar, you have like this residue on the bottom, which is what is like, that's the probiotic, that's the mother culture. That's what happens, that's like residue of all of the amazing fermentation. So you could put that in a cup in the same place that you would put your, like above your refrigerator, for example, or in the cupboard in a dark place. Just let it sit. And probably about in a month's time, that culture might form into a baby little SCOBY. And with time, it will grow and grow and grow and grow, and you can actually formulate your own SCOBY. I know a lot of people that have done that, but nowadays you can mail order a SCOBY and have it delivered to your door on Amazon and things like that. Or call your friends, call your local SCOBY dealer and see if they have an extra. So that's the easy way to get started on the SCOBs. So one more thing I want to do here today. What do we have for time? 2:31. Okay, great. We got like 10 minutes. When I decided to do this topic, I decided to Google myself, as one does, because I thought I had done something about kombucha in the past, and I did. In like 2012, when I was writing for a website called One Green Planet, I don't know if it exists anymore, I did a whole article about how to make kombucha, and I also posted an article about how to make cheese from using kombucha as a culture. Wouldn't you know it? And I'm probably going to share that on my Facebook page after this live is done. But I thought that was kind of fun, because I haven't really thought about that in, obviously it's been like 6 years. But on One Green Planet, I used to post a lot of articles for them when I was writing for magazines, and cheese kombucha cheese was one of the things. So I'm going to do a quick version of that recipe. I actually I don't know if this is against copyright, but I went and copied and pasted. It's not, because I wrote it. I copied and pasted the actual recipe that I shared from One Green Planet onto a document. So super easy. We're going to use kombucha as the culture that's going to ferment the cheese or culture the cheese a little bit. If you've watched my cheese videos that I've done here in the past, we cultured with vegan probiotic capsules. Same idea, but we're going to do it with kombucha. So into my food processor here today, I'm going to add in a cup of cashews, and I didn't soak them because I was lazy and I didn't plan ahead. That's just what's up. Quarter cup of nutritional yeast. We've talked about this a million times. Nooch. We're making cheese with kombucha and nooch. Quarter cup of raw kombucha. And what flavor do we want to go with today? So I'm using rosemary and cilantro for my herbs. So let's not go too crazy. It would have been good if I had not just drank my whole big jug, because this was a ginger turmeric kombucha that had 0 sweetness in it. It would have been really good to put on this cheese, but I went and drank it. So my choices are blueberry hibiscus, red berry, yerba buena, which is mint, or pineapple mint. Those are my options. Oh, this one. This was a straight up, nothing else but kombucha before I added in the berries. So I'm gonna just strain out the berries and put in about a quarter cup of that. And really, there's nothing wrong with sweet and savory. A little bit of red raspberry in our cheese ain't no thing. It's about a quarter cup. That was a lot more than a quarter cup. Pure Vita. A teaspoon of salt. A pinch of salt. Juice of a lemon. Didn't bring a knife. But I did bring a plastic spatula. We're all about MacGyver here in Costa Rica. Dun, 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 dun. I'm gonna put just a half of this lemon in here because I did just go a little bit bonkers with the kombucha. Wash my hands. And then some fresh herbs. So what do I have for fresh herbs? I said what? Cilantro. I'm gonna add in a couple handfuls of those. And a little bit of rosemary. And then we're just gonna pulse this till the cows come home. Don't get loud. Texture. Oh my god, it smells good. You want to come and smell this? Do you mind? Do you want to not be on? Or do you mind being on? Don't show her. Don't show her. Smells like cheesy, right?
It does.
Boozy cheesy. It's like, it smells like a little bit like alcohol because of the kombucha, but it smells good, right?
Kombucha cheese.
Kombucha. It's kombucha cheese.
Cheesy.
Queso.
Cheesy.
So, ideally what we would want to do here is we would scrape this out and I would wrap it in either cheesecloth or nut milk bag, much like you would do if you were making like a homemade paneer cheese or something like that, but I don't have either of those things here today. Story of my life. So I'm just going to wrap it into like a little cheese log in parchment. And what I'm going to do is then I'm going to put it in my dehydrator and I'm going to let this just dehydrate overnight so that we get like a little bit of a crust on the outside. It'll still be really, what's the word, ripe on the inside and soft and cheesy, cheesy. And then you have this really nice cultured vegan cheese log that's going to be yummy and probiotic. I think if you watched my 2 cheese videos I did back in the day like 4 months ago, I did different cheese rounds in the dehydrator and stuff like that. You could go for the same process. But the idea here is just that, you know, show the versatility that kombucha is not just for drinking anymore. You can use it as a culture. And what we'll do is we'll make this and we'll share it and we'll test it next week. I'll have some people taste test it and see, does it taste like cheese? What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to, like I'm making a sushi roll, This is the ideal texture, by the way. If you saw, I added in a little bit more cashew because I could see immediately because I added so much kombucha it was going to be too soft. You don't want it super runny for this application. So I'm rolling it into a log and it's nice and firm. Firm cheese log. Like so. Nice. You could put some herbs on the outside and make it look really pretty and all of that if it's, you know, if you're feeling extra festive. But I'm just gonna leave it like that and put it in my dehydrator. And that is, it smells really cheesy. Like I can smell the culture in that. And that, my friends, is all I have for you guys today. How'd we do? I think we did pretty good, and we're on pretty much average for time, 2:37. So, kids, let's see. We've only got 2 or 3 more weeks left of these Facebook Lives before Rythmia closes for a month to do some upgrades. So next week we are, what's next week going to be? Oodles of noodles. Oodles of noodles next week. I don't know what that means yet. We're going to do lots of different spaghettis and things with noodles. That's all I know. And we're going to check in on the kombucha. And then the week after that, we're going to do all things avocado, I believe. And then I think after that, we're taking a month off. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining us live. Kenneth, thanks as always.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a beautiful afternoon. Happy August. We'll see you guys here same time, same channel next week. Love you.
Love you, everybody.
Hey, bada boom, bada bing.